So there's been an outbreak of Hantavirus on a cruise ship, and that's led to the death of some passengers. So what do we know about this virus?
What is Hantavirus?
Well, Hantavirus, it's named after a river in South Korea, and that word, Hantavirus, really describes a sort of family of viruses. Around 20 viral species have been identified, according to the World Health Organization. It's not just one infection. It's really serious, but it's also relatively rare, and it's linked to exposure to rats and mice. The risk is typically highest when someone's doing something like, for example, cleaning out a building that's had a rodent infestation. So most of the human cases are reported in rural settings, such as forests, fields or farms, where rodents are present, and that means the opportunities for exposure are greatest.
Where could this outbreak have come from?
That's a really, really important question, and the answer is we don't yet know. All the cases are linked to this cruise ship, the MV Hondius, which set sail from the very southern tip of Argentina at the very beginning of April. But the first two fatalities, who were a Dutch couple, they're reported to have travelled through South America before boarding the ship. Now, that's really important because it's possible that one or both of them came into contact with the virus during their travels. And one version of the virus, known as Andes virus, that's been identified as causing infection in humans in both Argentina and in Chile. So, for example, in late 2018, there was an Argentinian outbreak that was traced back to people who'd all gone to the same party. A single person with the virus led to 34 confirmed cases and 11 deaths.
How does it spread? Is it airborne?
Yeah, it is slightly airborne, so it's transmitted actually by rodents, typically rats and mice, through their dried urine and the droppings, which are then blown into the air and inhaled. That's where it is slightly airborne. So mostly, yes, it is spread from rodents, but there have been these relatively rare cases of human-to-human transmission of this virus known as the Andes virus.
What are the symptoms?
Well, the virus can cause two really severe illnesses. The first is called Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, and it often starts with sort of flu-like symptoms, really. You can get fatigue, fever, muscle aches, then followed by headaches, dizziness, chills, upset stomachs. But then, this is where it starts to get very serious. You get respiratory symptoms develop. So, for example, breathlessness. And the mortality rate associated with this type of illness is around 38%. So more than a third of the people, according to the Centre for Disease Control in the United States, will die if they get that type of the virus. The second illness is called hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome, and this is even more severe and primarily affects the kidneys. So later symptoms can include low blood pressure, internal bleeding, and also acute kidney failure. The mortality rate for this version is 50%, so half the people who get it are likely to die.
Who should be more worried? Is it more dangerous if an old person catches it?
Well, obviously, if you're older or frail, or even if you have underlying health conditions, any sort of serious infection like this could have devastating consequences. So it's pretty serious, however old or young you are.
How do you test for it?
So there are currently some cases that have been confirmed and some that are still suspected, but the way you test for it is what's called a PCR test. Now, people may remember these from the COVID pandemic, when you might have a swab inside your cheek or up your nose. What it is a molecular biology technique that can quickly amplify or copy specific DNA segments, and that can create millions or even billions of copies from a very, very minute sample. And that allows, in other words, genetic testing.
What's the treatment if you do have it?
So there is no specific treatment or indeed vaccinations for hantavirus infections. Instead, medical teams will be supporting and treating the symptoms of the infection, things like breathlessness, for example, and that's called supportive care. So that might include everything from oxygen therapy, mechanical ventilation, antiviral treatments, even dialysis if you have the most serious version of the illness, which can affect your kidneys.
So, will we have another lockdown? Is this like coronavirus 2.0?
It's obviously still a really serious situation for those who remain on board the cruise ship. There must be a lot of worry about more cases emerging among the remaining passengers and the crew on board. But the World Health Organization says that currently the risk to the global population is low. But public health experts are going to continue to monitor and assess that situation. That risk assessment will be updated if they think it's necessary. So at the moment, no, I think we are a long way from a lockdown, and this really doesn't look like a coronavirus moment. It's understandable why people might worry about that. We all remember the beginning of the COVID pandemic when cruise ships in particular seemed to be vulnerable to infections like this, but I'd say we're still some way off that kind of emergency.